Hi, and welcome to On the Issues. We have a fantastic program today. I'm Phoenix City Councilman Sal DiCiccio, and I'm going to welcome on Pam Gaber and Ann Kendall and Snickers onto the program here. I don't think we've ever had a dog on the programs here at the City of Phoenix, but I want Pam to talk a little bit about Gabriel's Angels, what you do, how you got started, those types of things. I'm just excited. We've known each other now for probably about 15 years. It's hard to believe. Now, she has not changed at all. She looks exactly the same as she did 15 years ago.
The $50 I paid for you to say that after the show.
And I've lost a lot of hair. We do know that. But outside of that, one of the organizations, you just started up your organization at the time, and we had met, and it's just grown exponentially.
This is kind of amazing. It's been this amazing 15-year journey where I adopted the most adorable Weimaraner puppy born on the planet. And I'm a little bit biased, of course. And
Of course.
you know, you've heard of the Crisis Nursery in Phoenix, right? Well, I was volunteering there. Every Friday I'd go see the kids and take them on field trips and whatnot. And when I adopted Gabe, I went back the next Friday and I said, guess what? And the kids said, you know, what, Miss Pam? I said, I have a new puppy. And they said, well, what did you name him? I named him Gabriel. And when I went back the next week, the kids go, what did Gabriel do? What did Gabriel do? Oh, I had stories. Gabriel had his first bath. Or Gabriel tore up the drip system in the backyard. Or Gabriel ate his bed was the big recurring theme. But what I learned over the next several months is these children were bonding with an animal they'd never met. Fast forward, January 1999 till the end of that year, the Crisis Nursery had their annual holiday party. And I asked Marcia Porter, who is one of our local residents there in Ahwatukee, if I could bring Gabriel dressed as Rudolph to the Crisis Nursery's Christmas party because she was the chief executive officer. And she looked at me and she goes, that's interesting. And I'm thinking, I didn't hear a no in that. So I showed up the day of the party with Gabriel and antlers and a Just Call Me Rudolph t-shirt and a Jingle Bell collar. And my only intention was I wanted these children to finally meet Gabriel. And some of them, when I walked in, I think they looked like she brought a reindeer. But they realized it was Gabe. And over the next hour and a half, we witnessed a gentle gray dog reach children like no adult could. You know, I knew these kids. Instead of being angry and violent, they were loving and kind and compassionate. They would take that Weimaraner ear, which is like butter, and they'd put it on their cheek. There was one little boy in his room crying. He didn't want to come out to the party. But he had a Spider-Man t-shirt on, I remember that, and he kept looking outside and looked at Gabe, and he kept peeking at Gabe. And, you know, he walked out, I mean, his face was swollen and tear-stained, and he lifted up his arms, and he nuzzled Gabriel's neck, and he quit crying. And we were shocked. Marcia said to me, I don't know what happened here today, but would you bring him back? And I felt like someone called my child a genius. And, you know, I looked at him as if to say, what are you doing? You know, Gabe, what are you doing? And, you know, if he could have spoken, Sal, I often think he would have said, oh, silly human, I simply am doing what dogs do best. Got in my car, and I could see him from the rearview mirror, and he still had his antlers on. And I thought, Gabe, we're going to find a group here in Phoenix that are visiting children that are victims of abuse and neglect. And I went on the internet, and there wasn't one. So, and you've known me a long time. I could have done something or nothing, and I'm kind of a something kind of girl. And, you know, kind of. So I wasn't afraid to just start this agency, not knowing all the rules and all the anything. I thought, I know animals can heal children, and that was always my vision. And, you know, we got our 501c3. A couple people in my neighborhood said, well, no offense, but we have great dogs too. And we all three started visiting at Crisis Nursery, and, you know, all the shelters talk amongst themselves, and shelters would call, and the demand outweighed our ability to serve.
Tell us a little about the children when you first started. You know, tell us about what Crisis Nursery is. For a lot of our viewers may not know. We know, but they may not know what type of child has to go, not has to, but does go in there.
Well, recently, Crisis Nursery and East Valley Child Crisis Center merged to form Child Crisis Arizona. And they're a wonderful organization. The area I dealt with was victims of abuse and neglect who were removed from their homes by the Department of Child Safety, 10 years and under. They've been disappointed by adults. They haven't been treated properly by adults. A lot of the cases are neglect.
And children that get taken out of their home, that's considered to be
high
pretty
risk.
bad. It's
Yeah.
an incredibly high risk
Right.
child.
Well, let me give you a statistic that I wish wasn't true. When I started the agency, we had 7,000 children in foster care. And today, as we sit here, we have about 21,000. I couldn't.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, we have, well, you know, hate to say read the papers, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere that, you know, children are sleeping in the offices of the Department of Child Safety because there's not enough beds to help. So I've immersed myself in this child welfare arena, and we'll serve about 14,000 children a year, which is used to be about 70% of the kids that need us, and now maybe we're down to 50% because, you know, the kids. We also work with at risk, of course, self-contained classrooms, domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, group homes, their after-school programs, and Head Start programs, and we have about 122 agencies that we're currently in. Have expanded into Tucson. We have 50 therapy teams in Tucson,
Wow.
and
I didn't know
also
that,
up to
Pam.
Prescott. You know, it's the need is great, and while we can help, we certainly will continue to do so.
You know, it's interesting about a dog. You know, we have 2 dogs. We were talking about it earlier, and my girls are gravitated to they gravitate right to an animal, right to a dog. We could be on a hike, and they can see a dog 50 yards away, and whatever it is, it's like a mad dash to it. I'm like, wait, you never know.
That's true. There is a special
You know.
bond between children and animals. Although invisible, we know it's there. We can see by the reactions. And little dogs like Snickers, you know, they break through these kids because the kids frequently, the window's shut. They're not letting us in because, oh, we're humans, and sorry, but humans haven't been that nice to them. But the therapy dog has an amazing ability to crack the window.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of love comes in, a little bit more. And over the years, what we've learned is we are actually teaching core behaviors to intervene in the cycle of violence. So the behaviors your daughters have and show beautifully: compassion, empathy, trust,
Sure.
self-regulation, affiliation, that those are not behaviors that you automatically have. They have to be taught. So through the interaction with the therapy dog and with targeted activities that Anne and Snickers use together, they bring the children in closer contact with Snickers, and that's when the behaviors are developed. Most of the kids we deal with have attachment disorder. You know, they're not attached to their mom, they're not attached to their dad, they're not attached to
They were
anybody.
never taught that.
Right.
Yeah.
Who keeps coming back, though? You know, and when that healthy attachment is formed, then children can begin to care. Something simple like, oh, Miss Ann, Snickers is thirsty, and a child brings water. Well, in the average house in Phoenix, that should happen.
Right.
But for these children, that's a sign of empathy because they saw a need in another living being and cared enough to meet the need. Frequently, these children lack empathy. You know, if I brushed into you in the hallway by accident, I say, oh, I'm sorry. And you go, oh, Pam, don't worry about it. But these kids, their fists go up because they have never learned compassion and empathy. So if you can't really choose that if you've never been taught that before.
Well, it's interesting what happens to some of these children. You know, I can't even read. I don't even read the papers anymore when it deals with children. I just can't read another story. I mean, it's an emotional thing, and it's something where if you read even the first paragraph, you know where it's going to go. It's like you just turn it off.
Right.
But it is true because these children's lives, a lot of them, their lives have been ruined. You know, and it's been done by an adult.
Right.
If I could use improper English there, but it's an adult that ruined the life of that child. And to think that that person, child, when they become an adult, have to carry this with them.
Well, and they repeat
You
the
know?
very cycle of violence they were victims
Yeah.
of if they don't know any different. You know, what we look at ourselves as a wedge in that cycle. And what I tell I tell my staff this, and our donors, and our volunteers, go, I do not want to see the children of the children we're visiting today. I don't want that to happen. Like, how do we intervene in that cycle? So we know about the core behaviors. The other interesting thing we've learned through our formal program evaluation, now children have a reverence for animals. Because many times if these kids are in a home where there's domestic violence occurring, there's an 87% chance that if there's a pet on site, that pet's involved in the cycle of violence. So they may not be around very nice animals. They see a lot of dog fighting and really could in the beginning look and go, oh, animals don't have feelings, because they don't think that they do. But now we're teaching a love of animals because there's a saying that says people that abuse animals rarely stop there. So animal abuse is an indicator of future abuse, there's a correlation to humans.
And the compassion they show to an animal will also show what they will be like as they get older.
Yeah, if
too.
I can show empathy towards an animal, I bet I could try empathy towards Ann.
Well, I want, if someone wanted to get involved, and we're going to go to Ann too, because I know everyone's probably wanting to know who is Snickers. We're probably the irrelevant ones here, the three of us.
Probably haven't heard a word we've said.
Yeah, they just keep looking at, this dog is amazing. I keep looking at him, and it's a face, it looks like a human, But tell us a little bit more about where someone can either volunteer, donate, and then I want to open it up to Ann there.
Great first place to visit is our website, which is gabrielsangels.org. Lots of information in there, how to become a therapy team, how to become involved with our special events, how to donate. I mean, we're here because the community supports our efforts. So we don't have any government funding, it's 100% philanthropy. So, and we have an upcoming event, April 28th, at the Desert Ridge Marriott, Unleash the Love. It's our annual fundraising breakfast, and that also is on the website under events.
Well, it's Gabriel's Angels doing God's work.
There you go.
For these children. Ann, tell us a little bit about yourself and then how you found Snickers.
I started volunteering for Gabriel's Angels 3 years ago with Snickers. And so Pam did kind of touch on, we do group activities and then we do individual intervention too. And I found that with Snickers, the individual intervention worked really, really well because we can do one-on-one with a child that's really having some problems. And our basic thing is to go in and have the dog and the child meet and build that bond, like Pam was talking about, the trust level. And knowing that this dog is going to return every week to visit this child. And it becomes, they just look forward. Oh, absolutely. And they will do just about anything to see that dog. One of the nice things is we get written into their program, their therapy program, and work on the things that they really, you're really antsy a little bit. Huh? I think he's warm.
It's all about me.
Yeah.
So if they're having trust issues, then we build in how to trust. If they're having some issues with dealing with other people and how to work with their peers, then we talk about if you said something to another child and it was not appropriate and you reacted with anger, how do you think Snickers would feel about that?
Wow.
And we bring the dog in, and then there's a whole different
There's a new connection.
Oh, that would probably scare Snickers. And so that we start working on those different options on how behavior can be changed.
Well, I think we need to bring Snickers into the presidential debate. Okay, have each one of them carry the dog, and I think there'd be a different tone there,
Fighting.
Yeah, I know. But
Totally different.
what I want to do is I just want to thank both of you for everything that you do in this community and for these children. I there's so many angels that are out there. There really are. And the fact that you do this for love, you do it for the children, you do it for our future, I tell you, it's just, I'm very proud to get to know you.
Well, thank you for having
how you've
us.
known you. Oh, it's just, I'm very proud of the work that you do. Again, if you could just tell us, we're about to wrap this segment up, if you could tell us again where they can donate and how they can volunteer.
Well, our website's a great place, like we said earlier, gabrielsangels.org. Contact information is on there. Whether it's attending an event, if it's donating, if you have a great dog, we always are in need of therapy teams. Because when child abuse and neglect ends, Sal, we'll close our doors. Kind of idealistic, but we're in it to win it. We're gonna be around a long time.
Well, thank you for everything you do.
Thanks.
We're very proud of you, and God bless both of you and your entire team. And then Snickers, I'm going to hold them at the break. I'm going to have to. But for those of you that are watching, our next program is going to have former Councilman Craig Tribken. He's going to be talking about homeless issues in the Valley and things that are going on. Some real exciting work that is going on right now in the homeless community. Things that we don't even know about that are happening out there in order to help people transition into housing. Well, we'll be right back.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Hi, this is Phoenix City Councilman Sal DiCiccio. In our last segment, we heard from Pam Gaber and Gabriel's Angels. and the work that they do with children. This segment, we have an old friend of mine, well, not old, well, maybe we are old, Craig, but we used to serve together on the Phoenix City Council back in the 90s. And Craig Tribken had left the City Council, and now he's working with homeless issues. And he'd always had a strong concern with the homeless issues back in the 90s, and now he's working and devoting his entire life to working with the homeless. Craig, we're glad to see you back again. You're also on the Village Planning Committee, Camelback Village Planning Committee, so you're very active in our community. Tell us a little bit about what you do with homeless issues and the type of people that you work with. It's, you know, before we heard about children and dogs, usually when it comes to homelessness, people just generally don't even want to deal with it. And it's a harder issue to deal with individuals. But I think you're doing some exciting work when it comes to finding housing for homeless, permanent housing, and getting them off the street. So just tell us a little bit for people that don't know.
I work with Central Arizona Shelter Services, CAS as it's commonly known, which is on the Human Services campus. The Human Services campus is offers a broad array of services. We have a dental clinic on campus, we have health care for the homeless on campus, we have food through St. Vincent de Paul on the campus, and we have job services on the campus and other things. But there's actually a post office on the campus. And the idea is that we see 4,800 unduplicated individuals in a year, which is really an astounding number when you think about it.
When you say unduplicated, you mean new people?
New people.
That have not been to your shelter
that
before?
Have not been to the shelter, 4,800. 60% of them leave within 20 days. So CAS is a true emergency shelter for people who need a little helping hand up. And that usually comes about because you know, you start with intervention and stabilizing somebody. Somebody comes in, maybe they've been drinking, maybe they've been on the street a little too long. You know, they need to be stabilized. You move them quickly to an assessment phase where you're assessing what's up here, what can we do to help, and then you start looking for resources, for ways to help them, and frequently that's looking for a job. Job services are a big part of that, and then you get to housing, which is really the ultimate solution to homelessness. It may sound obvious that having an apartment is a solution to homelessness, but study after study have shown that the housing first model, as it's called, is really the cheapest, most effective way to deal with a chronic homeless person.
I don't think people realize how many people are just one paycheck away or losing that one paycheck from being out of their home.
Oh,
with families, children, the whole thing.
That's absolutely right. I remember, I'll never forget, I came home one night, and this was a long time ago, and there was a guy in a truck underneath, two heads in a car, and a guy underneath the truck working on his truck, and I got to talking to him, and I said, what's going
on?
He threw a rod, which is a serious mechanical problem, in front of my house in his truck, and in talking to him, he was clearly he was the expense of that repair away from being homeless, and so he had to fix his truck. So a lot of people, a tremendous number of people, are one paycheck away. They're one small disaster away, and that's why it is that only 60% of the people who we see leave within 20 days. That's a reflection of how it is that this is really an emergency shelter. CAS is a shelter for single adults, and we also have a family shelter which will accommodate up to 120 people up in Sunny Slope. But the main shelter is downtown on the Human Services campus, and we can accommodate 480 people there. They have to follow rules. They have to go through metal detectors and follow rules, and there's chores and things like that they have to do. But basically, the real key is they have to be working a program, and that program ultimately, hopefully, leads to work and self-sufficiency.
So let's walk through one of the 60%, because we also have the chronically mentally ill. Those individuals, for whatever life dealt them, will never be able to be functional adults at some point. But those individuals too are getting housing, and they're turning out to be, they're turning out to be functional adults at that point. after they get the housing. I don't think people realize how important having a shelter over your head really is.
Oh, there's a gentleman who has been referred to as Mr. 280, who literally had 280 emergency room visits in 1 year, or
Wow.
excuse me, in 2 years. And after we got him housed, he only had one emergency room visit in a year. And I think that's a statement about how it is that living on the street, is a homeless person on the street is generally a more expensive person for our society than is a homeless person taken care of in either a shelter or in housing. And getting them into housing is the most important thing we can do. We assess everybody who comes in. We have a welcome center, and everybody who comes in gets assessed and identified as prospects for housing. And the people who are the highest acute, who are the most acutely chronically homeless, usually are higher on the list of getting housing, because as with so many things, 80%, 20% of your people take up 80% of your resources.
So let's say somebody came through and just had a life-altering event, which could have been losing a rod in their vehicle and their engine, right? That is a life-changing event for some people, especially if you've got a family.
Absolutely.
You know, you may end up, you don't know what you're going to do. I tell you a little story too. When, my dad, we grew up kind of poor, and our car was hit. Our only vehicle was hit by a drunk driver. And so my dad had nowhere to go. I mean, he couldn't get to work. And so literally, without being able to get to work, that meant the family, we didn't know where we would have been, So I know what it's like that. I don't know to that level, So for these individuals that come in there, Craig, let's say somebody comes in, it's one of those individuals that have never been there before. Tell us what happens to that person. Because I think usually that's something that people want to know.
Yeah, the first they walk in. The first thing is they're assessed, and if we get people who are seriously mentally ill, who for whom there are other opportunities for housing for them, other places they can go, and so they get assessed and they get basically triaged the way an emergency room would triage somebody, as that process occurs, the next step then is that they get a bed usually, and then there's a more extensive assessment with a caseworker, and that caseworker learns about who that person is, and they have to learn who that person is in order for this to work. They learn who that person is. Are they eligible for disability? Are they able to work and just haven't, or they just lost their job and they're just a little down on their luck for a few weeks, and they just need a roof over their head for a short while. So that caseworker has to be hands-on with that person in order to really assess what's going on.
You also do a medical assessment too.
We do medical assessment, and we've got a dental clinic, and we've got medical on campus. We've got behavioral health people on campus, and so those people get assessed, and then the appropriate interventions are designed for that person. Do they need to apply for disability? Maybe they've got family and friends that actually can put them up, and they don't need a shelter, but they just haven't asked, or they haven't had
They're too embarrassed to ask.
They're too embarrassed to ask, whatever. There's always that option. Probably 15% of the people that walk in the door have an option, and we need to steer them to take advantage of that, because the city is very generous in its funding of us, but it's limited funding, as you know, and we try to the next real step, the most important part of this is finding a person housing, stabilizing them to the point where they can work, or they can have income. Sometimes that income is disability income. Sometimes that income is work income. Hopefully, most of the time it's work income. But that's the most important step of them all.
So how did they transition out of housing when it comes, out of CAS basically, out of the Central Arizona shelter?
Without getting into the weeds too much, there is a scale. Everybody gets tested basically with a tool that measures how acutely chronic their homeless problem is. And the transition, the people who, the lower people on the lower end of the spectrum, they have options. They need a bed for a few nights. Like I say, 62% stay. 4,800 unduplicated individuals, 62% leave within 20 days. But then there are the others, and those people generally need longer term help, and they're the ones who more often than not are aimed towards housing. We also have an affiliate called Arizona Housing Incorporated. Arizona Housing Inc. Is an affiliate of CAS. We have 550 supportive housing units in the valley.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that big.
We have 550 units, and so we have some housing. Now we've got waiting lists, and we can't always promise somebody a bed tomorrow for there, but we do have housing available, and we need more. We need more of these kinds of housing projects that are affordable housing projects.
Well, a lot of the times too, and well, at least in the city of Phoenix end, we prioritize it to veterans. You know, we want to make sure that veterans get housing. I mean, these are individuals who have gone out there, they've protected us, they've done everything that they can, and they've just had a bad time.
Yep.
And so as they were out there protecting us, it gives us the opportunity now to protect them and put them into housing where they can get their feet, you know, back on their feet again.
And vets get a priority, and you're absolutely right. These people have gone out and they've protected our country. They've worked hard to do the right thing.
They just had a bad time. Something happened.
They've worked hard to do the right thing. Sometimes you see PTSD and they need some mental health help. In fact, that's not an uncommon part of the equation.
We're seeing more of that now from the Iraq, Afghanistan wars. A lot of people are coming back with some really stressful things going on in their lives.
We're seeing quite a bit more of that. And
it's not going to go away.
No, it's not.
You can't wish it away.
No, you can't wish it away. And we see those people, and the chronic veteran homeless person is good news is that we are doing a very good job as a city at dealing with the chronically homeless vet, and so there's many fewer of them than there used to be, several hundred fewer than there were 8 months ago.
We're about to wrap up right now. Craig, tell us a little bit about how people can donate, volunteer their time, if they can give us a website, phone number.
Website is cassaz.org.
CASS, C-A-S-S.
CASSAZ.org. CASS, Central Arizona Shelter Services is what it stands for. So cassaz.org, and you can go on that online and donate there. We always need supplies like water. We need personal hygiene items. A homeless person doesn't generally show up with a toothbrush or toothpaste.
Simple things that we take for granted.
Simple things we take for granted. If they go to that website, they'll see plenty of opportunities to donate. Again, it's Central Arizona Shelter Services, cass.org.
Well, thank you for everything that you do, Craig. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your friendship, but mostly appreciate everything you're doing for the city of Phoenix. You've just been very committed to the city, and you're doing work that a lot of people don't want to do, or they would just rather avoid. I mean, the only interaction a lot of us have with a homeless person is when we see them on the street, or we see them, you know, in the downtown area. But you work with them on a daily basis, and you get to know them as people, you get to know them as individuals, and you get to know that they have a life. And a lot of these individuals that you help are people that have been involved in protecting our country, these veterans. So I think it's important for people to know that. So this concludes our program today. We were able to see two fantastic organizations with Gabriel's Angels and now with the Central Arizona Shelter Services. If you could find, you know, somewhere in your heart, or if you know somebody who might be interested in volunteering for either one of these organizations, I think it'd be fantastic. I think you'd find it to be very rewarding for yourself and for your own family. Thank you for listening to On the Issues and viewing in. This is Phoenix City Councilman Sal, DiCiccio.